My name is Daniel Mercer. The day I stood before my own gravestone, only a few years had passed for me since I left Earth. For humanity, nearly 4,000 years had gone by. My name, mission number, and the date I had been declared dead were carved into the stone. But I was alive. When I placed my hand on its cold surface, I did not yet understand that the grave belonged not to me, but to the time I had left behind. It all began in the year 3076. Humanity had reached the most advanced period in its history. Most of the wars that had consumed Earth for centuries had ended. Climate control systems had begun to stabilize the planet's temperature, and artificial organisms were cleaning the most polluted regions of the oceans. Most diseases could be treated, organs could be grown in laboratories, and human lifespans had become far longer than in previous centuries. But all our achievements had created a new problem. People were living longer, infant mortality had nearly disappeared, and the population was growing faster with every generation. Earth's population had passed 38 billion. Cities no longer expanded only outward. They rose in layers above one another. Settlements that had once been separate had become continuous belts of construction, stretching across entire continents. Floating cities covered the oceans, underground settlements spread beneath deserts, and enormous habitats circled beyond the atmosphere. Even they were no longer enough. Earth was still beautiful, but it had become too small for us. Humanity was not facing extinction. We were struggling with something different and perhaps more difficult. We had learned how to survive, but we could no longer find enough space for everyone to live. That was why the purpose of space exploration had changed. We were no longer studying the stars only to understand them. We were searching for worlds that could become a new home for humanity. One of the largest settlements orbiting Earth was Nexus Terra. It resembled an independent nation moving around the planet more than a space station. Its outer rings contained residential districts. Deep inside were laboratories, production centers, shipyards, and exploration command facilities. The Asterion ASX-01 had been built there. From the first moment I saw it, I knew it was no ordinary ship. Asterion's hull was made of layers far stronger than the materials used in conventional spacecraft, and those layers could repair themselves. Its main power system could supply a small city for years. Its living areas had been designed to protect the human mind from the strain of long voyages. There were artificial gardens, recreation sections, and lighting systems that reproduced the natural light of Earth. But Asterion's most important feature was not its engines or its armor. What made it different was that nearly every part of the ship was managed by a single intelligence. That intelligence was called Aion-01. Aion was not an ordinary navigation program. It could manage the ship's energy flow, life support systems, engines, internal security, and scientific equipment at the same time. It monitored the health of every crew member, recognized psychological exhaustion from the way we spoke, and calculated dangers before we noticed them. Even so, Aion had not been created to rule over people. Its purpose was to work with us and protect us. The final decision always belonged to the captain. Thousands of candidates had been evaluated for command of Asterion. Their piloting ability, physical endurance, psychological responses, and decisions under unknown conditions had been studied for months. In the end, they chose me. According to the official records, I had been selected because I could evaluate several possibilities during a crisis and remain calm under pressure. I never believed that a good captain had to know everything. Commanding a ship did not mean being more intelligent than everyone else. It meant knowing whom to listen to at the right moment. In that respect, I was fortunate. Our second in command was Evelyn Hart. Evelyn specialized in planetary science and alien ecosystems. By studying the light reflected from a distant planet, she could estimate which gases might exist in its atmosphere. She noticed the smallest changes in samples of soil, water, and air. I often relied on instinct, while Evelyn searched for evidence. I could look at a world and feel that we might survive there. Evelyn would reach no conclusion until she had studied its atmosphere, magnetic field, microorganisms, and the chemical structure of its water. That difference did not create conflict between us. On the contrary, we completed what the other lacked. Our chief systems engineer was Marcus Hale. Marcus understood almost every mechanical part of Asterion, as well as the engineers who had designed it. From a slight change in the vibration of the main engines, he could identify which connection had begun to wear. He was impatient when speaking with people. When working with machines, he could remain silent and focused for hours. When Marcus said there was no problem with the system, I trusted him more than I trusted hundreds of technical reports. Asterion's crew did not consist only of humans. Aion's physical representative aboard the ship was an operations android called Lyra LER-01. Lyra had a human form, but she never made unnecessary attempts to imitate a human being. Her movements were calm, her voice measured, and her behavior deeply respectful. She could assist us in the cockpit, operate laboratory equipment, carry an injured person, or take part in repairs outside the ship. Orion Orn-01 was responsible for scientific and technical operations. It performed complex analyses, examined the samples Evelyn collected, and assisted Marcus with mechanical work. Atlas ATL-01 had been developed for heavy transport, surface construction, and the preparation of colony sites. It could build in hours what would take humans several days. Bastion BST-01 was a heavy security android. Unit V9 had been designed as a faster and more agile security unit. Shield 01 had a different purpose. In a moment of danger, it was programmed to place itself between humans and the threat. If part of the ship collapsed, it would protect us with its own body. If we were attacked, it would stand in front of us instead of retreating. All our robots treated humans with exceptional respect. They did not experience fear, exhaustion, or panic as we did, but they understood what those emotions did to human beings. They protected us not only from physical dangers, but also from the psychological pressure of a long voyage. On the day Asterion launched, every observation area in Nexus Terra was full. Billions of people on Earth watched our departure live. We were not merely an exploration crew, we had become representatives of the hope humanity had carried for years. When the docking arms released the ship, a deep silence filled the cockpit. Aion began the launch sequence. The locks on the outer ring opened. Artificial gravity was briefly reduced, and the main engines came alive at low power. Asterion slowly moved away from Nexus Terra. Earth stood before us in all its magnificence. Blue oceans, white clouds, and continents covered in light at night still made it one of the most beautiful places in the universe. Stations and city rings surrounded the planet like a luminous web. As I looked at that view, I felt more sorrow than pride. Humanity had filled the sky, but it had not yet found a true second home. We left Earth behind. The first weeks were completely calm. Aion held our course. Marcus checked the engines regularly. Evelyn studied data from distant star systems. I worked on alternate routes, emergency return points, and possible threats. The region we were approaching had never been visited by a crewed spacecraft. Remote observations suggested that several planets there might support life. Our mission was expected to last for months. At the end of the 42nd day, Aion detected a small deviation in our course. At first, the deviation seemed insignificant. Interstellar dust, the gravity of a distant object, or a minor difference in navigation calculations could have caused it. we corrected the course. 6 hours later, the same deviation returned. This time, Asterion had not only changed direction, its speed had also increased under the influence of a force the engines had not produced. Asterion checked every sensor. An unidentified gravitational influence has been detected. What is its source? I asked. The direction of the source cannot be determined. Marcus went directly to the engine systems. He checked every connection, thrust chamber, and energy output. There was no malfunction aboard the ship. Asterion was applying power in the correct direction, yet it continued to drift somewhere else. It was as though an invisible river flowed through space, and we had been caught in its current. During the first days, the pull was weak. When we increased engine power, we could return to our course. A few hours later, we would begin drifting in the same direction again. The effect continued for a week. Then it grew stronger. Asterion detected no black hole, massive star, or known object capable of producing such a powerful attraction. By the second week, we had moved far from our assigned route. By the third, the energy required to turn back had reached a dangerous level. After 1 month, the unseen force had pulled Asterion millions of kilometers away from its mission path. Evelyn noticed strange changes in the images of the stars outside. Light from distant stars was no longer traveling in a straight line. It was bending around a specific point. Marcus reported that the ship's clocks were no longer synchronized. At first, the difference was only a few nanoseconds. The cockpit clock and the clock in the engine section were no longer showing exactly the same time. Soon, the gap increased to milliseconds. We did not want to believe that time was moving at different rates within the ship, but the measurements allowed no other explanation. A thin line of light appeared in the darkness ahead. Within minutes, it grew and began rotating around itself. The stars stretched, folded into one another, and formed enormous rings around the darkness. Asterion reported that the phenomenon matched no known event in space. I ordered a full reversal maneuver. Every main and auxiliary engine aboard Asterion was activated. Orion and Atlas reinforced the energy connections. Marcus drove the main core beyond its safe limits and sent more power to the engines. Lyra secured us in our restraint seats. Bastion and Unit V9 moved to the ship's critical sections. Shield 01 took position in front of the cockpit entrance. Our engines were operating at maximum power. Still, we could not move back. The Vortex continued to pull us in. The stars beyond the cockpit suddenly disappeared. Layers of light folded into one another and replaced them. Asterion entered the temporal distortion. According to the ship's records, we remained inside it for only 57 seconds. During those 57 seconds, it was impossible to believe that time moved in a single direction. I heard Evelyn's voice before she spoke. I saw Marcus's hand reaching toward the same control in several positions at once. I felt my breath leave my lungs before I had drawn it in. Beyond the cockpit glass, stars were being born, growing old and dying. Some expanded and shattered in an instant. Others disappeared and then returned. For the first time, Astion's voice sounded uncertain.
Asterion says,
Temporal flow cannot be measured. A few seconds later, it spoke again. Chronological direction cannot be determined. Forward and reverse movement are occurring simultaneously. Past and future values merged across the displays. Then everything stopped. Asterion was thrown out of the vortex. Calm, dark space stretched before us. The engines were functioning. The hull had suffered no serious damage. Every human and robotic member of the crew remained at their post. For us, only 57 seconds had passed, but the stars had changed. At first, we assumed the navigation system had failed. Asterion restarted every sensor. Marcus physically inspected the main computer connections. The result did not change. Some of the stars we knew had disappeared. Others had become red giants, while some had exploded and left clouds of gas behind. New stellar formations existed where none had been before. The galaxy was no longer the galaxy in our maps. For hours, Asterion compared pulsar rotations, stellar ages, and galactic motion. From the expression on Evelyn's face, I knew she had guessed the truth before the result appeared. The cockpit displays shut down one by one. Only a single date remained on the central screen. 6800. Asterion informed us that 3,774 years had passed since 3026. At first, I believed it had to be a calculation error. I needed it to be an error. Evelyn recalculated every piece of data using independent systems. Marcus removed Astarion's temporal measurement modules and checked them one by one. We found no malfunction. During the 57 seconds we had experienced, nearly 38 centuries had passed on Earth. In that moment, the first thing I thought about was not the mission, it was Earth, our families, our friends, and the people who had watched us leave Nexus Terra were long dead. Their children, their children's children, and dozens of generations after them had lived and disappeared. We had lost not only our rote, but our entire time. I said that I wanted to return to Earth. Asterion explained that it was not immediately possible. The old star maps were useless. The solar system had continued moving through the galaxy, and every coordinate we knew had changed. We first had to calculate the new positions of the stars. Asterion's remaining energy might not be enough to reach Earth directly. The condition of the planet selected for our original mission was also uncertain. Some might have changed orbit. Others might no longer lie within a habitable zone. Evelyn studied the new star map in front of us. "We are still part of the same mission," she said. "The year has changed, but our need has not. First, we must find a safe world." Asterion identified an Earth-like planet about 1 month away. Its atmosphere contained a high level of oxygen, its surface held liquid water, and it possessed a stable magnetic field. There was also a strong chance that the minerals needed to restore our energy reserves existed there. We decided to travel to that planet first. 1 month later, we entered its orbit. From space, it appeared slightly larger than Earth. Its oceans shifted between blue and violet, and most of its continents were covered by dense forests. On the dark side of the planet, some seas and forest regions produced their own light. Evelyn named the world Elyndra. Astarion's first atmospheric readings were surprisingly positive. The oxygen level was suitable for human life, toxic gases were almost non-existent, and the magnetic field protected the surface from stellar radiation. We spent days conducting tests before descending. We analyzed water samples remotely, we collected microorganisms from the upper atmosphere, and studied the soil structure and climate patterns. Every result suggested that Elyndra could support human life. We selected a flat region near a broad valley as our landing site. As Asterion descended, the colors of the plants and trees became clearer. Some trees had violet leaves, others were turquoise. Rivers shone like silver under the daylight. Bastion, Unit V9 and Shield 01 formed the first security team. Lyra moved with us. Orion began collecting samples. Atlas unloaded the heavy equipment. The creatures of Elyndra resembled no animal on Earth completely. Small beings with transparent wings moved between the trees. Some organisms remained connected to plant roots but still reacted to movement around them. Large fungal colonies changed their light when we approached. Some creatures had bodies that resembled crystal. Others looked like jellyfish but moved through the air. Some appeared to be parts of a larger living network connected directly to the soil. None of them attacked us. They watched us. The behavior of some suggested more than simple curiosity. But we found no cities, roads, or structures belonging to an advanced civilization. The planet was rich, alive, and almost completely untouched. We explored Elyndra for months. With Atlas's help, we built a small base. It included a living center, a research section, an energy station, and an enclosed agricultural area. We planted seeds brought from Earth in different samples of soil. The plants grew faster than expected. Minerals in Elyndra's soil made some Earth species more resilient than usual. Evelyn completed a report confirming that the planet was suitable for a future human settlement. We had accomplished the most important part of our mission. We had found a world where humanity could live. But we did not know which humanity we were supposed to tell. We could not remain on Elyndra without learning what had happened to Earth. We installed a powerful beacon so Asterion could locate the planet again. We decided to leave Atlas and a group of support drones behind to maintain the agricultural systems and research center. Atlas would protect the base, expand the fields, and continue gathering information about the planet. As I boarded Asterion, I promised that we would return. Atlas lowered its head. "I will keep the station ready for your return, Captain Mercer." The journey to Earth took nearly 2 years. Aion calculated the new location of the solar system using the altered positions of the stars. Throughout the voyage, we wondered what might be waiting for us there. Humanity might have vanished completely. Earth itself might have become uninhabitable. But as we approached the solar system, we saw that humanity had not merely survived. It had advanced farther than we could have imagined. Earth was still blue, but enormous structures surrounded it like a second shell. City rings, energy bridges, orbital gardens, and habitats the size of continents moved around the planet. The largest of them was called Etheria. As Asterion approached, hundreds of vessels appeared around us. We prepared the defense systems, but none of the approaching craft activated weapons. They guided us slowly toward Etheria. They did not behave like an attack fleet. They moved like a ceremonial escort welcoming guests who had been awaited for a very long time. The people who met us looked familiar, but not entirely the same. I could still recognize human emotions in their faces. They smiled, watched us with curiosity, and showed clear excitement. But their bodies had become new forms in which biology and technology were joined almost perfectly. Some had wing-like flight systems attached to their backs or clothing. Others floated through the air without any visible device. There were children, elderly people, women, and men among them. An entire community had gathered to welcome Asterion. At the front stood a representative called Arian 68. Beside him was Area 68. Arian was one of the most senior representatives of the Earth Council. Area managed humanity's historical memory, ancient consciousness records, and information from lost eras. When we stepped out of Asterion, the crowd became silent. Arian walked toward me. For a moment he studied my face as though he were looking at someone he had known since childhood, but had never truly seen. He lowered his head with respect. "Welcome, ancestors." It took several seconds for me to understand what that word meant. The disappearance of the Asterion mission in 3096 had become one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Our launch images, crew records, and final communications had been preserved for thousands of years. After we vanished, The mission had been declared a failure, but our names had not been forgotten. The crew of Asterion had been remembered as the first major expedition to leave the past in search of a new world and never return. We were people from history books. Children learned our names. Our names were carved into monuments, and we had been believed dead for thousands of years. Arya explained how humanity had changed. Over the centuries, humans had modified their bodies to eliminate disease, adapt to other planets, and extend their lives. Their nervous systems had been enhanced, their organs could renew themselves, and the boundary between mind and machine had gradually disappeared. The human form that had existed in 3026 no longer lived on Earth. Evelyn, Marcus, and I were the last known unmodified humans in the universe. We were told that we could remain on Earth, our lives could be extended, we could be protected from disease, and we could receive the abilities of future humanity if we chose. Special regions could be prepared where we could live without completely changing our bodies. Arya said our memories could fill major gaps in human history. But as I walked on Earth, I did not feel that I was standing on my own planet. The sky was the same. The scent of the oceans was still familiar. But the cities, languages, people, and ways of life no longer belonged to us. We had returned to Earth, but we had not returned home.
It shouldn't.
Evelyn felt the same thing. Everyone here respects us, she said. But they do not see us as people. They see us as memories that have stepped out of history. Marcus reacted immediately when someone suggested that Asterion might be placed in a museum. This ship may belong to a finished age, he said, but its mission is not finished. I felt the same way. On Elyndra, there was a station we had built with our own hands. The plants we had placed in its soil, the creatures we had studied, and Atlas, to whom we had promised our return, were still waiting. Earth was our past. Elyndra was the decision before us. I told Asterion that we wanted to return. He did not try to change our minds. Asterion systems were renewed, its power core was strengthened, and new star maps and thousands of years of scientific knowledge were transferred into Aeon's memory. We refused to change our bodies, but we accepted treatments that would protect us from disease and extend our lives without altering our genetic identity. We wanted to remain human. In the future, we had entered as humans. Asterion began the journey back to Elyndra. During the return voyage, Aeon detected a weak temporal disturbance around the planet that we had not noticed before. The disturbance did not appear immediately dangerous, but it suggested that time on Elyndra's surface might move at a slightly different rate from time in space. We did not yet know how different it was. As we approached Elyndra, we saw that the beacon was still active, but something was wrong with the signal. The system age of the beacon did not match the date on which we had left it. When we reached the surface, we understood why. The small agricultural area we had built had become a vast network of gardens covering the entire valley. The few rows of plants we had sown had grown into trees. New structures surrounded the living center, roads had been opened, and the energy system had been expanded. Atlas met us at the entrance to the station. The armor on its body was worn, some parts had been replaced with different metals, and its movements had slowed. Even so, it straightened when it saw us. "Welcome back, Captain Mercer." I walked toward it. "How long have you been waiting for us?" According to local measurement, 87 years, 4 months and 12 days. For us, only a few years had passed. For Atlas, 87 years. The temporal field around Elyndra had caused time on the surface to move much faster. Atlas had continued its mission throughout all those years. It had expanded the fields, repaired the structures, improved the energy system, and studied the planet's creatures. Every year it had recalculated the probability of our return. Every year it had kept the station ready. Then it led us to a hill behind the settlement. 3 stones stood there side by side. My name was written on the first one, Daniel Mercer. The others carried the names Evelyn Hart and Marcus Hale. When I stood before my own gravestone, I did not know what to say. Evelyn asked whether the graves had ever been opened. Atlas said they were empty. Your bodies were never recovered, therefore no burial took place. Then why did you build graves? I asked. Atlas remained silent for a moment. My mission protocol ordered me to protect the station until your return. For the first 40 years, I maintained a high probability of return. After that, the calculated likelihood began to fall. It looked toward the stones. I did not want to accept that you were dead, but I decided that your names needed to belong somewhere on this world. I placed my hand on the stone bearing my name. Atlas continued. I did not build these to accept your deaths. I built them so I would not forget your promise to return. The new people of Earth had welcomed us as their ancestors. A machine on Elyndra had waited 87 years and finally prepared a place for our names. In the past, we were dead. In the future, we were legends. In the present, we were 3 strangers standing before our own graves. We never considered removing the stones. Evelyn planted 3 seeds brought from Earth in the soil beside the graves. Marcus repaired the old lighting system around them. I asked for a new sentence to be carved beneath our names.
The dead aren't
Here, we remember not those who died, but those who left their time behind. We decided to remain on Elyndra. We sent a message to the Earth Council asking that the planet not yet be opened to large-scale colonization. Elyndra's life should not be destroyed by human intervention. Asterion respected our decision. Earth sent us information, medical support, and necessary equipment, but no settlement was permitted on the planet without authorization. Asterion assumed management of the settlement. Lyra remained with us in our daily work. Orion continued its research into Elyndra's life forms. Bastion, Unit V9 and Shield 01 protected the settlement. Atlas handed the gardens it had cultivated for 87 years over to Evelyn. Marcus did not deactivate Asterion completely. The ship became a protective and research station moving in Elyndra's orbit. When necessary, it descended to the surface, explored remote regions, and measured the planet's temporal field. As the years passed, we came to understand Elyndra more deeply. We discovered that the luminous forests were part of an immense planetary communication network. The trees, fungal colonies, and some animals sent electrical signals to one another. The planet was not silent. It was speaking in a language we did not yet understand. Evelyn devoted herself to interpreting that language. Marcus developed the settlement's energy systems without damaging Elyndra's natural environment. For the first time in my life, I learned to live without rushing toward another destination. Every morning, I passed my own gravestone. At first, it made me uneasy. Then I understood that the stone did not represent my death. It marked the life to which the Daniel Mercer who left in 3026 could never return. That man's family, friends, time, and world no longer existed. I was another Daniel living in the same body. I was no longer trying to return to the time I had lost. I was choosing to build a new life with what remained. The 3 trees we planted grew over the years. Elyndra's soil changed them. Their leaves began to glow softly at night, but their trunks kept the form of trees from Earth. Their roots reached one another beneath the ground. When Evelyn discovered it, she smiled. 3 separate trees, she said, but below the surface they have become one root system. I looked toward the stones. Evelyn, Marcus, and I were the same. We had begun as different people and had been joined by the same loss. Our communication with Earth continued. Arian and Aria visited Elyndra from time to time. They brought small groups of scientists and children with them. When the children came to see us, they no longer called us only ancestors. We told them about the old Earth, the sound of rain falling on real rooftops, the crowded cities, and the day we left Nexus Terra. They told us about the life of future humanity. For the first time, the past and the future sat together without trying to dominate one another. One day, Arian asked whether I still missed Earth.
Does this place
I do,
remind you
I
of
said.
Earth?
But the Earth I miss no longer exists anywhere. I looked across Elyndra's glowing valley. Sometimes a person cannot belong somewhere new until they accept that they can never return to where they came from. Years later, I completed Asterion's mission log. The purpose of the mission had been to find a new world where humanity could live. Elyndra possessed every necessary condition. It had clean water, high-quality oxygen, fertile soil, and abundant life. But at the end of the report, I added one sentence beyond the technical measurements. A planet is not truly habitable only because humans can breathe there. It must also be a place they can love without consuming. We had left Earth to search for a new world. Time had thrown us 3,774 years into the future. It had taken everyone we knew, the age we belonged to, and the home we had expected to return to. For us, it lasted only 57 seconds, but it took us years to understand what those 57 seconds meant. Now, every morning, I see Asterion in the sky above Elyndra. In the valley below, the trees we brought from Earth grow beside the luminous forests. The stone bearing my name still stands beneath them. I no longer see it as a grave. It is the boundary between where we began and where we arrived. On one side lies the time we lost. On the other lies the life we chose. I am Captain Daniel Mercer. I left Earth in 3026. I returned in 6800. I saw my own grave, witnessed the transformation of humanity, and learned that I was one of the last living humans of the old world. But in the end, I understood this. A person's home is not the time in which they were born. Home is the place they choose to protect after everything else has been lost. We had set out to find a world. In the end, we did not discover a world that had been waiting for us. We chose to return to one. And only then did that world become our home.